Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Hello.
Today, we are jumping headfirst, really, into the mind of Rassie Erasmus.
The man behind the Springboks dominance.
Exactly. But we're not just looking at his coaching. We're using the, let's say, sharp perspective of Ireland legend Keith Wood to figure something out.
And that is whether Rassie is, accidentally saving the game or maybe just exploiting its flaws.
It's the perfect deep dive for this week, isn't it? With the huge Ireland-South Africa clash coming up in Dublin.
Oh, absolutely. And the tension Wood sets up is just, it's magnificent. Here's a guy he calls phenomenal.
Right.
Whose thinking could be the saving of the game, but then in the same breath, he calls some of his best methods, well, bullshit.
And that contradiction, that's where the real story is, Wood is basically using Erasmus's own genius as Exhibit A for why World Rugby needs to change.
To fundamentally rewrite the rules.
Yeah. We've got a coach who is so good at the current system, he's basically making the argument to tear that system down.
It's an incredible paradox.
It is. Before we get into that, if you want more insights into the game's biggest debates, make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your deep dives.
Okay, so let's start with Erasmus himself. The man, the myth, the villain.
Wood is very clear on this. He says Erasmus plays the villain, and at times he is the villain. But this isn't just for show, is it?
Not at all. It's a high-level strategy.
It's pure management genius. He draws all the attention, all the controversy to himself.
Whether it's those sideline videos or, legal battles.
And by doing that, he deflects everything away from the team. The players just get to focus on playing. Rassie takes all the heat.
It's a masterclass in psychological warfare.
And that's so important because the rugby he's actually coaching it's complex.
Exactly. Wood praises it as breakaway thinking from a lot of South African teams of the past. This isn't just 80 minutes of grinding it out up front anymore.
No, and the innovation Wood really celebrates, the thing he sees as a positive, is Rassie's ability to find players who can play in, 3 or 4 different positions.
Yeah, this is the core of the praise. It's this multi-positional flexibility that he says just wouldn't have been thought of before.
An example he gives is Esterhuizen.
Esterhuizen, yeah. A powerful center suddenly slotting into the back row during a match.
That doesn't just happen. That takes years of planning and specific training.
For sure. And it completely changes how you build a matchday squad.
If you have a few guys who can cover multiple positions, your depth just explodes. But that right there leads us straight to the bullshit.
It does. Because the genius of having these multi-use players allows for a related, and for Wood, a pretty destructive tactic.
Which is?
Pushing the substitution laws to their absolute limit.
So using that depth to bring on almost a whole new team.
A whole new pack, basically. Just as big, if not bigger, than the guys who started. It maintains that insane power for the full 80 minutes. Wood argues that this, while brilliant, is just saturating the game.
And this is the pivot point. Wood goes from talking about one coach to arguing for a global rule change.
Right. Because Erasmus has proved players can do more, Wood thinks the answer is to take away the temptation to just flood the field.
And his proposal is aggressive.
Very. Reduce substitutions to just 4 or 5 per game.
That's radical.
It is. But the idea behind it is all about restoring what he sees as the essence of the sport.
Yeah.
He thinks it'll make the game more interesting.
By forcing 2 things, better fitness and creating more space.
Let's talk about that space argument.
Yeah.
Because that's everything for the fans, right?
It is. Right now, the field is just full of enormous athletes, wave after wave. Wood's point is, if those starters have to stay on longer, they'll get tired.
Naturally. And when players get tired,
what happens? Gaps appear.
Their defensive line isn't as quick. They're slower to get back into position. Fatigue creates space. And space lets the smaller, quicker, more skillful players do their thing.
He's not against big forwards. He just wants the game to stop rewarding endless size over everything else. He wants movement to matter again.
He has this great analogy for it.
The boxing one.
Yeah, he says it's like being in the 8th or 9th round of a boxing match and they just change the boxer.
It's perfect. You spend an hour grinding down your opposition, and then 2 fresh 130-kilo props just walk on.
And all that hard work you did for the first 60 minutes is just gone.
It's trivialized. But okay, let's play devil's advocate. If you cut subs that drastically, what about player welfare?
That's the big question, isn't it? The highest stakes question.
Especially for the front row. Your tight head gets injured 5 minutes in, and you've only got 4 subs for the whole match. That feels dangerous.
Well, Wood's argument, and he's basing it on what Erasmus is already doing, is that it forces teams to adapt.
So coaches would have to develop more of these multi-use players out of necessity?
Exactly. Your replacement prop needs to be fit enough to play 75 minutes. Your bench has to be way more versatile.
Mm.
He thinks the change is painful, but it's necessary for the long-term health of the sport.
And there's another benefit he talks about, a really crucial one: affordability.
Right. He links the rule change directly to saving the game financially,
Fewer subs means you need smaller squads.
which means fewer players, less match fees, and a whole variety of other things, maybe a couple fewer coaches. It makes the professional game more sustainable.
He knows it wouldn't happen overnight. He suggests it might take a whole World Cup cycle to wean teams off 23 players down to 20.
And he knows who would fight it the hardest.
The coaches.
Coaches would hate that, he says, because it takes a massive tactical tool out of their hands.
Of course. And that brings us to a good point to check in. What do you, listening, think? Do you agree with Wood? Is slashing the number of subs the key to saving the game and creating more exciting rugby?
Or are the player welfare risks just too high?
We'd love to hear what you think. And remember, to keep up with these debates, subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
So, moving back to the Springboks, the whole reason Wood can even suggest this radical idea is because of the luxury Erasmus has in South Africa.
It's the key context. Wood says they have strength and depth like no other side in World Rugby.
When he says they have two huge packs of forwards, or almost two squads, he's not really exaggerating.
No, it's an incredible resource that lets this whole substitution strategy even exist.
And what's interesting is how Erasmus uses that depth. It's not just brute force. Wood says they are promoting speed and attacking wingers, smaller players, better than anyone else.
So they have the power foundation, but the tactical goal is to unleash that pace.
Exactly. And the whole thing is built on really smart resource management. A lot of their double world champions are, on the far side of 30.
Keeping that group fit and motivated is a huge challenge.
And they've handled the overseas player issue brilliantly. They don't punish guys for leaving. They manage them. They pick them. Wood calls it a really good model.
It expands their talent pool globally.
The ultimate goal, he says, is to have 30 players that are interchangeable.
Just think about that. 30 guys who can swap in and out with almost no drop-off in quality or power.
And this is where he brings it back to Ireland. He's very clear that this Springbok model wouldn't really work for Ireland.
Because the player base is smaller.
Much smaller. If all the top Irish players went overseas, he says Ireland would suffer quite heavily. The depth that Rassie has is a unique advantage few nations can match.
And having an advantage that powerful, that a model that dominant, it's bound to create friction.
Which brings us back full circle to the villain narrative.
Yep. The sources we looked at mention it. You see comments from the Springbok camp when things don't go their way, like Ms. Wandile Stick talking about unfair treatment, or Rassie himself on the officiating of headshots.
And that just reinforces Wood's first point, doesn't it? It's all part of the strategy. Deflect, create an external focus, and keep the pressure off the team itself.
So let's try and pull this all together. The key takeaway here is that Rassie Erasmus's genius is in showing what's possible.
The possibility of these incredibly versatile, multifunctional players.
And that success is the very thing Keith Wood is using as evidence that the laws have to change.
It's the ultimate paradox. Erasmus is winning by mastering the rules, but he's also exposing a weakness in the sports design that many people think is making it a worse spectacle.
It's the highest form of influence, really. He's not just winning games. His methods are forcing a global conversation about what we want rugby to be.
Efficiency versus entertainment. Interchangeability versus endurance.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to chew on. Given South Africa's incredible depth, what responsibility do top teams have?
Is it to maximize their advantage under the current rules? Or is it to promote a version of the game that values fitness, endurance, and space?
And is Keith Wood right? Is a radical cut to substitutions the only way to force that change? Let us know what you think.
And if you enjoy these deep dives into rugby strategy, please make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to listening to our next episode.